Hello everyone! Sam here, back with part 2 of this video of the most underrated Pokemon of every type. I'm just gonna go over some of the basic ground rules again. The first one being, I'm not going over any legendary or mythical Pokemon for obvious reasons, along with no Gen 9 Pokemon because we haven't really had enough time to judge whether or not they're popular or not popular yet. Hey guys, quick disclaimer. I'm going to leave links to the original art that I'm using in the description. Please check out these creators and show them support. They're putting way more work into this art than I am on this video. And if you see your art in this video and don't want it to be, all you need to do is ask and I will take this video down, re-upload a version without your art in it. Out of every rock-type Pokemon, Hisui and Avalugg really stood out to me as a Pokemon that is just underrated. It was by far the most fun of all of the boss fights in Legends Arceus, and it needs to get more attention because of that. It has a good design, better than its Kalos counterpart, and while there really isn't much else to say about it until it becomes available in a game with PvP battles, I do feel safe saying that Avalugg will be at some high tier. Probably not OU, but maybe like 2 or 3 below that. Just because of its whopping base defense stat of 184. Which makes up for its type disadvantages to water, grass, fighting, ground, rock, and steel. For the ground type, I chose Quagsire. I've never really used him on many teams because it gets overshadowed by other ground and water types, but the only type that is super effective against it is grass, with pound 4 damage, but it resists fire, poison, rock, and steel, and is immune to electric type moves. I also want to clarify that I'm aware that Quagsire is already somewhat popular, but his face is so squishable and I love him. Even if he was the most popular Pokemon on Earth, he would still be underrated and I would take a bullet for him. Hey guys, this is me while editing. I feel I should clarify that I have over 150 takes for this section. This was the best one, but I did it around 10 o'clock at night, so I was really tired while doing it. For our flying type of this list, we have the Rayquaza food itself, Minior. I'm gonna be honest, I really didn't even know it was a Pokemon until I was trying to complete the Gen 7 Pokédex, and just ran into one while I was looking for a Ditto. For the most part, it's been shrugged off by both fans and the Pokemon Company itself, only being seen in its inception game and nowhere else. However, this Pokemon is both literally and figuratively a diamond in the rough. Because while it may be under the radar, it has a unique ability called Shields Down, which makes it the only Pokemon that can outright change its base stats mid-battle, changing from a defensive menace into a glass cannon, which leads to plenty of variety and strategy and counterplay. The creativity in its design is just unmatched. Not only does it have a perfectly crafted shiny, but it also has a really creative design overall, as it's inspired by both Gasiphon machine capsules and falling stars. I think the only way you could really make it better and competitive is if you gave it a relationship with Rayquaza similar to that of Tatsugiri and Dondozo. But seeing as Rayquaza's stats are already super high, I don't see this realistically happening. Representing the bug type, the next Pokemon on our list is Araquanid. While my first experience with it was somewhat disappointing after having to get one-shot by Guzma's Golisopod and Molly Garden after evolving it in the Battle before, it has a really good design, taking inspiration from the Diving Bell Spider, along with having an absolutely exquisite shiny. While there are a lot of underrated bug types, Araquanid stands out on this list because its water bug typing is only seen in 2 other evolutionary lines, those being Masquerain and Golisopod. And while Araquanid and Masquerain are incredibly similar, even having the same base stat totals, I opted for Araquanid because Masquerain was the only Pokemon of its typing for multiple generations before Araquanid and Golisopod were introduced in Gen 7. Golisopod outshines Araquanid for a multitude of reasons, including, but not limited to, its move pool, base stat totals, and ability. To make Araquanid stand out more, I would give it the same treatment that I would to Centiskorch, making it the standalone water bug type in a game. Another thing that would work is to give it a 3rd evolutionary stage. I'm making a video about this which will be out in a few weeks. A clear frontrunner for the poison type on this list was Seviper. After being introduced in Gen 3 as a Sapphire, it's got a lot more recognition than it currently has. For the dark type, we have Cacturne. This is another Pokemon that I don't really have much experience with, other than having battled it from time to time. This was one of the more difficult decisions I had to make, seeing that Shiftry has an almost identical base stat total, appears in the same number of games, and also first appeared in the Hoenn region. I ended up making this choice based on how easy C-Dot, Shiftry's pre-evolution, is to get early on in their debut games, along with the fact that Cacturne has a slightly lower base stat total. A significant reason for why I think Cacturne is so underrated is because it just shares its grass dark typing with a myriad of powerhouses like that of Meowscarada, Brute Bonnet, Wo-Chien, Zarude, and as mentioned before, Shiftry. This is a shame because it has a truly impeccable design, being based off of an Old West style cowboy. It also has a greatly varied moveset which helps balance out its many weaknesses. One of the ways you could make Cacturne more unique would be to give it a Mega Evolution, which takes more inspiration from a Wild West gunslinger, like this version from the pen game Pokemon Insurgents. You could also take the route of having a Mega Evolution that just highlights the features it already has, like this one from the artist whose name I don't want to butcher, so I'm just going to spell it out on screen. For our ghost type on this list, I chose Trevenant. While I've never used it on a team, I really like its design because of how unique it is. It has a beautiful shiny and a lot of really interesting Pokédex entries throughout generations, which makes it unfortunate that even with its own generation, it's overshadowed by Gourgeist, which has higher base stats, is on Champion Dianthus team, and has a unique mechanic where it has different base stat spreads depending on how large it is. With Gourgeist not being in Sun and Moon, you would think that Trevenant would have its time to shine here. But in this generation, two other grass ghost types were added, which were Decidueye and Dhelmise. The latter of which was on this list earlier, but even it outshines Trevenant since it's a member of Ace Rolla's Elite Four team. I feel like the best course of action to give Trevenant a chance to shine would be to move away from its current grass ghost typing and give it a regional form based around petrified trees, giving it the unique typing of rock ghost, which fans have been requesting for a while now. Next up on our list is my favorite fossil Pokemon and favorite ice type, Aurorus. Its typing of Rock Ice is rare, with the only other Pokemon to have this typing being Hisui and Avalugg. It was a core member of my first ever playthrough of a Pokemon game in Pokemon X, sweeping through Wulfric's Ice-type gym and Elite Four Drance's team. The two sails going down its neck copy the patterns of the Northern Lights, making for a beautiful visual. After rescuing the scientists in Glittering Cave from Team Flare as part of the story, the scientists will give you the option between two fossils, the Sail Fossil and Jaw Fossil. The Sail Fossil will give you Amora, which will evolve into Aurorus, but the Jaw Fossil will give you Tyrant, which evolves into Tyrantrum. I feel like this is a reason why Aurorus is usually overlooked, because most people are going to go for Tyrantrum, the Theropod, as opposed to Aurorus, the Sauropod. With Tyrantrum being based off of the T-Rex, easily the most popular dinosaur of all time, it just makes it difficult for Aurorus to compete. And while there isn't really too much to be done that could change that, a way I could see Game Freak differentiating the two would be to make them game exclusives for a game in the future, where the fossils could be obtained as part of a story, but you get either one depending on which copy of the game you bought. This would not only help Aurorus differentiate itself from Tyrantrum more, but it would also give more people the opportunity to use it. The main reason I chose Fortress was because of its shiny. The gold coloration looks amazing on it and adds so much to its design. While it isn't very much to look at on its own, it makes up for that with its high defense stats and good type matchups, only being weak against fire. It's usually overlooked because of other bug steel types like Skeezor because of its design and stats, and Escavalier because of its unique method of evolving. A Mega Fortress would be a really fun Pokemon to use, especially if it follows this design made by artist Jimbo or Gimbo GP on DeviantArt. For the Dragon type of this list, I chose Flygon, which has really solid stats, a creative design, and vibrantly colored shiny. Despite all of these positives, it has one major problem, which is that the other two ground dragon types are Garchomp and Zygarde, which outclass it in just about every way possible. The only exception to this is that its base speed stat is 20 points higher than Zygarde, but other than that it just gets overlooked. An easy fix that Game Freak could do for this is give it the bug dragon typing. Its pre-evolutions Trapinch and Vibrava are both already based on insects, being the Antlion. So why not give it that typing? No other Pokemon exists with this type combination, which would give Flygon the recognition it deserves, along with giving the player base another type combination to use and counter. Another way Game Freak could go about this would be to go the same route as the fan game Pokemon Insurgents, and give Flygon a Mega Evolution like this one. For the final Pokemon on this list and our Fairy type, I decided to make a hot take. My choice for this one is Granbull. While not being the most incredible Pokemon out there, it has a solid design being based on a Bulldog, and managed to encapsulate the strength of one. Originally, Granbull was just a normal type, but then it was given Fairy once the type was added in Gen 6. While this change did give it a buff, it also confused a few people. I feel like the reasoning for it was if you look at its very first Pokedex entry from Pokemon Gold and most of its others, they state, "It is actually timid and very easily spooked. If attacked, it flails about to fend off its attacker." I really enjoyed the type change because it just reinforced what the Pokedex already said about it not really being a threat, despite looking quite threatening. This type change also led the way for more scrappy looking Pokemon to be given the Fairy type, such as Mimikyu, Tinkaton, Zacian, and Grimmsnarl. With Granbull being a lot weaker than other Fairy types, Game Freak could either give it a better shiny to make it more popular in the shiny hunting community, a slightly more varied moveset, and slightly higher base stats, rounding it up to 500. So that's going to be it for this video. I would like to say once again, please check out and support the original artists of the images I used in this video. I will be leaving their links in the description. And if you enjoyed, please feel free to like and subscribe. If you have any criticism, please leave it in the comments down below, as I'm always looking for ways to improve my content. That's all for now, and I'll see you guys next time.